Congressman Ron DeSantis is a Republican from Florida who serves on the House Judiciary Committee. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Greta.
Well, the Speaker of the House says it's regrettable there's a little confusion, and I guess that's sort of a nice, polite way to say it because, a lot of people were very upset, still are upset, but many took to the streets, to the airports. It was a little bit more than confusion.
Yeah, it was definitely a crazy weekend, but I think the ultimate point is we don't want these programs, although I support having a refugee program, support legal immigration, we don't want the American people to assume risks to their safety and security. So we want to make sure we're doing this right. I had the chance to meet with some of the other members today with King Abdullah of Jordan, and he said, look, ISIS is trying to infiltrate some of the migration flows with their operatives. So it is an issue. We got to get it right. And I'm hoping the Trump administration does that.
Do you have any objection to House Judiciary staffers working on this, or should they have had permission from the chair of the committee?
Well, Chairman Goodlatte, he addressed us earlier, and he seemed to think that the article was a little bit misleading and understood that they were working. I'm not sure how the staff is working. I do think that I've encouraged my staff to work with some of the legislative folks in the White House because having White House support for a bill is good. And so there is a room for a collaborative process. I think generally speaking, though, if you're doing a purely executive action, it's probably better that that's done within the executive branch.
Do you think this should be only an executive action, or would you have preferred that this issue be brought to the legislative branch of government? Your branch?
Well, it may end up being there, but under existing law, the president does have broad authority that Congress has already delegated to the executive to make these types of decisions about who can be entered and who cannot be entered. And so this was something that he had promised to do in the campaign, and he did cite legal authority to do it. It doesn't mean Congress can't also weigh in, and maybe we will. But I think a lot of this is going to be how is the State Department and DHS actually implementing this, and the proof will ultimately be in the pudding. If the migration pattern is safe, then I think everyone will be happy.
There's a lot of intrigue last night with the Acting Attorney General, Sally Yates, issuing her memo. She was then fired, and then we got the U.S. Attorney from the Eastern District of Virginia now is the acting AG until Senator Sessions is confirmed. But do you think that Sally Yates, if she objected this, would have been wiser to resign rather than put out the article and the memo and get fired?
Without question. And the memo she put out didn't say that she thought it was unconstitutional.
She said she didn't like it. She basically said she didn't like it.
Exactly. And so if it violates your personal scruples, more power to you. But the absolute correct thing to do is to tender your resignation. What you can't do is say, I'm just not going to do the job that the Department of Justice is supposed to do because I don't like it. Because imagine then if her junior prosecutors decided to buck her when she said that. It just doesn't. So Donald Trump had no choice but to terminate her, and I hope that Jeff Sessions gets confirmed very quickly.
What does it say about sort of the dialogue, though, between, I realize that she's a holdover and she's an acting Attorney General and the White House, though. It sort of blew up in the public, and we're at home sort of hoping that things are being worked out a little bit better.
Well, I think that it's the new administration. Obviously, there's some work to do, but she even alluded to the Office of Legal Counsel. That's typically where they go, and she said all they do is vet for legality and proper form. I have this special other duty.
Which is sort of what they're supposed to do. They're saying whether it's legal or not, and she didn't say it was illegal. She said she didn't like it.
Exactly. And so she said that she has this special duty above and beyond what OLC was. So I think traditionally you work through the OLC. They're very smart and they do a good job. They have a lot of institutional knowledge. But if they say it's good to go, for an attorney general to say we're not going to defend this in court and then just think you're going to keep your job, there is no way that's sustainable, Republican administration or a Democratic administration.
Any thoughts on the intrigue 16 blocks away at the White House as we're waiting for the nominee, and we got cameras on entrances waiting to see if the nominee slips in? And any thoughts on this intrigue tonight?
Well, I've read some of Judge Gorsuch's opinions and extrajudicial writing. On paper, he is very much in the mold of Justice Scalia and Justice Thomas. I think he has a very strong originalist bent. The question will be, does he have the backbone and fortitude that Scalia and Thomas have? He might, but I think only time will tell. But on paper, I think it would be hard to find somebody who measures up along the lines of how Scalia was as a justice.
And this hearing is going to be bruising. Whoever gets nominated nominated is in for a bruising. Anyway, Congressman, thank you, sir.
Yeah, congrats on the show, Greta.
Thank you, sir.